You're listening to The Tales We Tell, a podcast about spooky stories, unsolved mysteries, and local lore. And tonight, I'm your host, Katy.
And I'm Hannah.
It's a Tell We Tale!
Yay! We switched it.
Finally. We are continuing tonight on our Monster ABC.
Yay.
So we've done...
Yeah, what was the last one we did? Oh, wait, hold on. Can you give me the letters and I guess what they were?
C.
Chupacabra.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
With a lot to digest. So we skipped D is for demon, who can be such a pest, because we've done a couple of demons. And I'm skipping E is for enchantress with powers so grand for right now, because I feel like we've done some like witchy things. And if not, I might do witches for W, because we've also done werewolves.
That's true. Okay.
So tonight is F is for Frankenstein's monster crafted by hand.
Yay!
But before we get there, I'm going to try and make this as like short and sweet and succinct as possible.
Okay.
So last Monday, we packed up and set out for our 4.5 hour trip to the cabin.
Last Monday? Were you gone the whole week? Oh, wow. Okay.
Again, trying to make this short.
Okay. Sorry. But
I'm just teasing.
It's us.
So yeah, we set out Monday morning for our 4.5 hour trip, and Tuesday morning we finally made it.
Okay.
Because no, we did not drive into the Twilight Zone. I mean, I don't know, maybe we did. I don't know Durham very well.
Oh. Listen, don't stop while you're in Durham.
But we did enjoy our little 18-hour adventure there.
Jeez.
So we like to stop kind of halfway through to, change Walker, let him stretch his legs, get out, run around, have some snacks or whatever. And so we stopped at a brewery in Durham, had a lovely time, great place, totally recommend. And then Shelton went to go put the dogs in the car and, start the truck and get the AC going while we wrapped up inside.
Yep.
And the truck wouldn't start again because I've finally, I was thinking about you so much. I was like, I can't wait to get back and tell Hannah about how, I finally encountered a cursed object.
Is it
because
the truck?
It has to be the truck. This truck has been nothing but a nightmare since the day Shelton bought it. I hated this truck, and it's just been one thing after another, because the last time we went to the cabin, on our way back, we stopped for our regular, halfway spot in Raleigh. And we're almost stranded there. It took us a long time to get the truck to start again.
Jeez.
And so...
How are you still taking the truck up there and not your
because
Subaru?
when we got it back, brought it to the shop, and they're like, oh, it's the fuel pump. But it's also this other thing that's attached to the fuel pump. So we got all that fixed, and everything was fine.
Okay.
So we took it to Richmond and back and had no problems. So it's like, okay, it's fixed, except it wasn't. So we had to hang out at the brewery for a little bit longer while we figured out a plan.
Okay.
And booked a hotel and got a rental car. And so I was a minivan mom for a few days.
Nice.
And I'm like, okay, the main thing right now is I want to get my very tired toddler somewhere that is safe and, air conditioned and a lot smaller area than this brewery.
Yeah.
So we were able to get Walker and I got in a taxi. And we took a taxi.
Not like an Uber? No. Oh my gosh.
It was a taxi. I mean, it was a taxi. Because originally we were like, we need a dog-friendly Uber. And we messaged, we're like, hey, can you take 2 people, a toddler in a car seat, and 2 dogs? And they canceled the ride.
Oh, no.
So, whatever. It was a taxi.
Okay.
I mean, it was basically an Uber. I don't know.
Okay.
All I know is that the 7-minute drive to this hotel, Walker cried.
Jeez.
About how much he did not want to be in the taxi.
Oh, Lord.
For 5.5 minutes of the ride.
He just didn't want to be.
He mellowed out right when we were about to pull up to our hotel.
Gosh.
And I'm trying to talk to this taxi driver and be like, I'm sorry. He's like, I got kids. It's fine. So, but we pull up to the hotel, and that's when I realized, I'm like, okay. So I have the unhappy toddler, the big diaper bag, another bag of Walker essentials for sleeping, his pack and play. Oh, and the car seat. How am I supposed to manage all of this stuff by myself?
Right.
Then comes out my knight in shining armor, Devin, with
Devin.
Devin. he's the hero. He's the hero of this story.
Bellboy.
He's a bell man. A bell man.
A bell man. Damn it.
Grown ass man. He was very helpful, and he was so kind and so friendly.
Aww.
And I hope that somehow the universe finds a way. Like, we are sending a thank you card to the hotel, and like wanting to be like, hey, management, you need to commend your staff. You need to commend Amy and Devin, because they were rock stars for our stay.
What hotel did you stay in?
We stayed at I think it's the 21C in downtown Durham.
Okay. Because I used to work at a hotel in Durham.
They had lots of penguins. It was like that's like their symbol.
Okay.
But there was most of the penguins like on the little decals along the windows of the hotel and the restaurant and stuff downstairs were rainbow and just all LGBTQ, all the letters. They were colorful penguins.
Aww.
And I was like, that's awesome.
Love.
So he comes out with the rolly cart and helps, between him and the taxi driver, they get, all the stuff in the car seat out, and I'm just wrangling the toddler. And he takes me up, we go to the lobby. He's like trying to entertain Walker with like some of the art, like, look at these birds, they talk back at you. And while we're waiting for the Amy at the front desk to check us in, and she's like, oh yeah, and you had the 2 dogs, and she's like, okay, well, what are their names, what are their breeds? I'm like, well, Jory, he's a lab mix. And then Olive, well, she's a booze hound. She's like, it came out before, and she's like, that is hilarious. I was like, wait, no, is this like official documentation for like insurance purposes? She's like, no. And I was like, okay, well then, yeah, you can write that down. And they gave us cute little doggy goodie bags. So it's like, those little mesh jewelry bags. There was a cookie and a poop bag in there.
Oh, how adorable.
And then Devin escorted us up to the room and, had fun chatting with Walker.
Aw.
And we got all settled in there. And during this time, I guess Shelton was still fiddling with the truck, and he somehow got it to start and run. And he was able to drive it to a nearby parking garage. Came into the hotel with the dogs, dropped them off, got a ride from the hotel to the rental car place, picked up my super sweet minivan, came back to the hotel. We went out, had some dinner, and just, side story. We brought some chocolate pudding for Walker, but we didn't have any of like utensils or anything because we don't need utensils on the road. We're going to the cabin. We have a fully stocked utensil drawer. And so went down to the front desk and asked, like, do y'all have any utensils? Thinking it might have some like some to-go stuff or something from the restaurant. They did. Except it was a knife and a fork. And Walker has to have a spoon for his pudding.
Of course he does.
His cha-cha pudding. And so he was having like a full-on meltdown because he had his pudding and he needed to eat his pudding. Could not eat it with a fork.
Of course.
So we had to go down to the restaurant and request a spoon, and the hostess brought us a spoon.
Oh my gosh. And
immediately he was chill. So I was like, I'll bring this back. And then meanwhile we went off like wandering the streets of downtown Durham. And he finished his pudding. We threw the cup away. I licked the spoon clean and stuck it in my pocket. And just wondering. I think it was actually in this dress even.
Nice. The dress is putting in overtime for you. Man.
Dress is killing it. And so when we got some dinner, brought back to the hotel, and Shelton and I figured out our plans and went to bed and woke up, took the dogs out to pee, and we're like, all right, well, let's go just see the truck. Because I also needed to get my pills out of the truck. And we'll just try it.
Right.
Sure enough, it starts, it runs, no problem. We're like, okay.
Great.
So we're going to get loaded up. And we're going to take the minivan. Like, Walker and I are going to drive in the minivan and head to the cabin. Shelton's going to take the dogs in the truck. And so while we're, like, we got all our stuff downstairs at the street entrance, we're waiting for the valet who is, like, backed up to bring our van around. I'm standing right there at the door, and there's this giant-ass, like, tour bus thing But it just looks kind of like somebody with one of those big like RVs, but it's more than just your run-of-the-mill RV.
Yeah.
And it was taking, I'm like, that's probably why it was taking so long, whatever. And so I'm standing at the door, and then someone starts to come in, and I move out of their way, and I think literally closer than you and I are sitting right now, this man walks past me, and I'm like, you're a rock star. Like, he just exuded, like, his whole look, his aura, his everything. I was like, you're a rock star, and you look really familiar.
Who was it?
Well, one of his, roadies or crew people had their stuff around. So I start creeping around, and I'm sure it looked like I was, like, casing it to try and steal.
Yeah.
But I noticed there was a little all-access pass for Slash.
Shut up.
I was within, like, I could have literally reached out and touched Slash.
Was he wearing his cool hat?
He was not. And that's why it took me. That's why it took me a minute. I was like, it was the curls. I was like,
I was going to say, yes.
I was like, the curls. I was like, okay, he had just like the attitude, or he was also wearing sunglasses.
Okay.
And a baseball hat, which I know is not a disguise. But it was the curls. And I was like, you are a rock star. Like, I just could tell. And I'm like, but you also look really familiar, but like I couldn't really see his face.
Yeah. And
I'm not good at faces anyway.
Yeah.
Also, a good 40 or more pounds to him than, all of the, you Google Slash, you see Slash.
You see him
from back
prime.
in the day. Yeah. Not many pictures of modern day Slash.
Man.
But it turns out I was like, I knew it.
That's amazing. He was just performing in Durham?
I looked it up because I was like, okay, like, she has the pass. I know, like, I'm pretty sure that was him. Like, I'm 90% sure. And I looked it up, and he had a show the next night in Cary. So I was like,
wow. Would not have guessed.
So
Cocoa Booth Amphitheater, I would assume.
I don't know. I didn't look at all the details. I just saw, sure enough, the next night, Cary, North Carolina. And I was like, okay, so the hotel that welcomed not just me and Shelton, but our 2 dogs and toddler also played host to Slash.
That's
okay.
Amazing.
Yeah.
That is so fun. Man, I was going to say, that almost makes me want to go back into hotels. It doesn't. It's terrible, but man. Well, the only cool thing we ever had at ours, which was the Hyatt, is we had a girl who was on Flavor of Love. And
classy.
There was so much drama, and somehow I got on her good side because another one of my coworkers pissed her off because they were smoking weed in the room, and like, you can't do that. And so I think my coworker called the room and was like something like, oh, we're calling all of our guests to remind them that there's no smoking or whatever, and she went off on her. And then I just happened to be another person who was there who could be like, I'm so sorry for all of this convenience. Like, please rest assured that, like, we were calling every guest. We are not trying to accuse you of anything. I highly apologize. Like, let me get some perk up to your room. Man, it was a thing. Ugh. But that's all we got. We didn't get, Tony Hawk or Clay Aiken or any. I don't know why I put them in the same category.
I would be equally as like pleased and happy with myself if it was Tony Hawk.
Yeah, that would have
been. And I would have actually been like, Tony Hawk.
You could have done that thing though that happens to him all the time.
You look like that guy.
Look a lot like Tony Hawk. Has anyone told you? And he's like, yeah, I get that. A lot. Speaking of athletes, only because this is like the thing bringing me joy right now. Have you seen the Olympic breakdancing stuff?
I've seen the video of the one woman and
the Australian. Yes, that's it. And now there's nice like I saw one of a girl in her living room, and it's like that one time I think I could be an Olympian, and I'm kind of right. And she's like doing all the moves in her living room. Oh man,
I totally forgot that the breakdancing was in the Olympics. Didn't realize it, and
I feel like
also thought it was a joke at first.
I did too. They do have a good, like, I saw another Australian perform who was like actually breakdancing and was quite good. So I was like, it just makes it make less sense because I'm like, who is this girl? Who is she? She's like our age and she has like a master's in dance is what I heard. I don't believe it's serving her very well, but that's...
I don't know enough about breakdancing to judge, but also I don't know anything about synchronized diving, and I can be a strict judge on that.
Synchronized anything blows my mind.
I love watching the synchronized diving.
It's crazy. I like the synchronized swimming. They look so robotic.
Weird. And it's like beautiful, but also creepy.
It's terrifying. Yeah. I can't figure out how they're staying afloat. It's crazy.
All right, you ready for the real story now?
Yes, I have one more thing
Go for it.
to say. Per a request, we now have Kelly stickers. Kelly's my dog.
Where's
if
my
you don't
sticker?
Know. It's in
You
the
can't
kitchen.
announce a sticker and
I
not
know.
give it to me to
I don't
admire.
even have my phone on you, which is where I have mine. They're in the kitchen. It's just her face.
Well, yeah,
but
it's a cute face.
Amanda requested them, and I was like, say less. I'm ordering them right now. Got them from the same Etsy shop where we get our regular stickers. So Amanda, who's a new patron, will be getting that plus all of our regular stickers. Our existing patrons will be getting a Kelly sticker. And if you would like one,
you can become patrons at patreon.com. Search The Tales We Tell.
Yes.
You get early access, commercial-free listening, sometimes some fun bonus content, stickers, like Kelly stickers. We'll send out regular, love notes every now and then. Christmas cards. And
when we
always
get to
our
that.
undying love and affection.
As always. Okay, tell me a story. Tell me about Frankenstein. His monster. Frankenstein's monster.
Right. Also, might have encountered another cursed object because when I first started typing out this story, like I'd be typing and then my keyboard, I guess, would get stuck and be like,
oh my gosh, I hate when they do that.
And then I would be like, wait, no. And I hit Control Z to undo something. And then it just started going, just like deleting and undoing all the text that I wrote. And I was like, no. And so when I finally got it stopped, I had to hit redo.
You might need a new keyboard.
It's time.
Yeah.
It's been giving me troubles for a while. But this was new.
Okay.
F is for Frankenstein's monster crafted by hand.
Yay.
Frankenstein, or The Modern Prometheus, as it was originally published anonymously in 1818, is a story that has not only lasted through time, but has also generated its own mythic presence in society and pop culture.
Correct.
Everyone knows Frankenstein.
And we all know, I feel like we all know what he looks like. And I'm interested to know if that's at all accurate, what I'm thinking of.
Well, if you've never read the book or seen any of the dozens and dozens of films, you still know who Frankenstein is and the basic gist of the story.
Yes.
It's a mad scientist, Dr. Frankenstein, reanimates a corpse and creates a monster.
By accident.
The monster, not Frankenstein.
Right. Frankenstein's monster. He should have just named him like Frankenstein Jr.
Frankenstein's such a good name for the monster, though.
know.
Or maybe it's just because, we grew up with, it's Frankenstein, with the Monster Mash and whatnot.
Yeah. Someone made that mistake once, and it has stayed that way forever.
It's what the Mandela effect is. That what it is? Something like that.
It's like someone said it once, and then someone will be like, "Actually, no, it's always been called Frankenstein's monster."
So the central theme for the novel of the moral and sociological impacts, it's kind of echoed by Jeff Goldblum in Jurassic Park. We only asked if we could, but never stopped to ask if we should.
Right.
Allows an endless number of interpretations. This is one of the most analyzed novels in the modern age, one site said. And so, based on who's reading the book and what their agenda is, readings of the novel or excerpts and whatnot have been used to support various ideologies such as Marxist economics, radical feminism, green politics, and of course genetics and biotechnology.
I get the last one. All the ones before that.
I mean, just think about how often the Bible is used and quoted to support different people's arguments.
Yeah.
So
for sure, I can see that.
Like, things can be twisted any which way almost.
That's true.
So, though young Mary Shelley was likely more focused on the morality issue, one can't help but wonder how an 18-year-old girl came up with the idea and where she got the knowledge to back up the science in her story.
Oh, yeah. Because, sorry if I'm jumping ahead. Did she wrote this in that, like, weird little writer's getaway, right?
Yeah, she was staying at, I think, Lord Byron's,
Mm-hmm.
either a, like, lakeside estate or, like, they all, like, he rented something, and basically it was a bunch of writers, like, her and her husband were there with Byron and a bunch of other contemporaries.
Okay.
But yeah, no, she was 18 when she started the novel, and I think maybe 20 when it was finally published.
Okay.
And again, she published it originally anonymously.
Okay.
And I don't know too much else about the history of how it went from being anonymous to her taking credit for it.
Right. Okay.
The scientific elements are actually fairly vague, but still prominent enough that people have tried to kind of like dig into her past and essentially explain away, how and why.
Right.
Because she can't just be intelligent, creative, and inquisitive on her own.
Right. God forbid.
We have to credit her husband, who had a close friendship with a doctor and a keen interest in the world of medicine.
Of course.
Or her father, who was friends with a man named Luigi Galvini. We'll get to him in a bit. However, thankfully, there are also suggestions based on a recent biography that Mary had read an account of a sailor in 1814 who had actually been in a coma for several months and then finally woke up and regained consciousness. There's another...
Did a man tell her that story?
She read the account.
Okay. Then a man wrote, probably.
Well, yeah, it was probably the doctor.
And a man allowed her to read it. So... Jarek said something today about...
I wasn't going to say this, but now I am because you're being a punk.
Okay. What?
Another possible thing was after the death of their first child, she said she had a dream that they just simply, like rubbed his back by the fire and he came back to life.
Oh, why would you say that? I was saying funny things, Katy.
You were being a punk.
About men, which is fine.
Yeah.
About Jarek saying he wouldn't allow me to do something, and I was like, you won't.
Good luck with that.
Except it was about buying a house, and I was like, well, I mean, I can't really do that without you.
Went to the grocery store this morning, but before we went, I was checking the sales flyer. I was like, oh, Little Debbie's are on sale. And Shelton immediately goes, we don't need Little Debbie's. And then immediately goes, well, I don't. You can get some if you want. I was like,
first of all, they're topical. We just had Little Debbie come through here.
We did. Too little.
I love that they're on sale. That's great.
Yeah. So
good marketing.
It was at first I thought it was BOGO, but it was actually buy two get one. Guess how many boxes of Little Debbie's I got?
3?
All 3.
Nice.
Tell me we don't need Little Debbie's. Bitch, you might not. All right. So whatever or wherever her inspiration came from, whether a man allowed her to be inspired by things, the idea of, and indeed the attempts to reanimate dead bodies actually existed before and well after Mary Shelley's prolific novel.
Okay.
And so, as I said, she was fairly vague on the details and the how, but as we kind of all know, modern interpretations include a lightning bolt. Basically acting as a defibrillator to bring the monster to life.
Right.
Which, as evidenced by the fact that I could compare it to a real-life tool, the defibrillator, and process that all of you listening know what I'm talking about, shows how not far from the truth it actually is.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So, one concern with a novel like Mary's is, again, as dear Mr. Goldblum posited, would other scientists try to conduct their own experiments? The answer, of course, is yes.
Of course.
For some of the people we're going to talk about, it's more like yes. In fact, scientists were fiddling with reanimation for a while before Frankenstein was ever published. The idea of using electricity to bring back the dead was actually kind of an old idea, even.
Okay. I mean, it works, kind of, if you do it soon enough.
Yeah. Again, the defibrillator.
Right.
All right. Luigi Galvani.
Yeah, tell me about Luigi.
That guy that I mentioned who was supposedly buddies with her dad.
Right.
He was an Italian physicist and biologist who became interested in, quote, medical electricity and how it could be used on animals.
Oh, no. Okay.
So after nearly 20 years of studying obstetrics, comparative anatomy, and physiology, Galvani decided that frogs' legs would be his new hyperfocus.
Okay. Sure.
Because, like, apparently in, like, the 1770s, scientists were really kind of like just jack of all trades. They tended to be interested in a lot of different things, you know, because he was, you know, there's others that were like, oh, I'm a biologist and a chemist and a physicist and a historian.
And a surgeon.
And on, you know, weekends I make shoes. Like,
yeah.
It's all random stuff. They're interested in what they're interested in.
I mean,
good for them.
Go for it. I have a question. Just the legs? Not the whole frog?
Frog legs.
Seems... I just feel like you might need the other parts.
Frog legs.
Of the frog. Okay.
Frog legs.
Okay. Carry on, Luigi.
So, according to the legend, he was actually skinning the severed lower half of a frog's legs. No explanation provided.
Okay. As you do.
Yeah. So I don't know why he was interested in frogs' legs. Maybe it was something to do with, like, I'm assuming it was related to his interest in comparative anatomy. So he wanted to focus, like, okay, well, what is it about the anatomy or physiology of this animal's legs that allows them to jump the way they do?
Okay. You think he was into eating frog legs too?
I mean, I've had them and they're not bad.
I believe you.
But yeah, there's in all of my sources, there was no explanation provided as to why he wanted to study frog legs.
Gotcha.
All right, so he's dealing with this.
He's skinning the frog
leg.
Legs.
When his assistant touched a bronze hook in the leg with his scalpel, causing it to twitch as if trying to hop away, which, fair. I'd also want to hop away from that mess, too.
Yeah, for real. Man.
So,
again, just the leg. Okay.
This event sparked an idea and led Galvani to begin experimenting.
Oh, man.
His hypothesis was that the muscles of dead frogs, just frogs, contained a fluid that he named animal electricity. He claimed it was similar to, but ultimately distinctly different from, lightning or static shock.
Well, yeah, it's a fluid.
Yeah,
it's animal electricity.
To me, it sounded like a surly teenager. It's different. Oh, you wouldn't understand.
Don't understand. It's different than regular electricity.
So essentially, like, electricity could reanimate whatever animal electric fluid remained in the muscles.
Okay.
Is kind of what he was saying.
All right.
Fellow scientist Alessandro Volta.
Ooh, okay.
Volta should sound a little familiar.
Okay.
Confirmed the experiment's results. So he also made a frog's leg twitch.
Okay.
But he didn't quite agree that there was some special fluid, and he just kind of claimed a shock is a shock.
Okay.
You know, to further back up his point, he invented a battery and went around shocking lots of dead things because he could.
He invented a battery, invented the battery, or just built a battery?
He invented there's a specific one. But Volta, have you heard of voltaic cells or voltaic things?
No. I've heard of volts, which is where I thought you were going.
No. I'm not super familiar with Volta because he's much more physicist.
Okay.
And I don't know physics very well. But I do know the show Warehouse 13.
Okay.
I know that he did stuff with magnets, too.
Oh, okay.
Anyway.
Cool.
He's not in here long enough for me to have
Yeah, we're
done more research. This isn't what we're about.
Okay, we're back. We're on Luigi.
So, but by this time, Galvani was getting a bit long in the tooth and didn't really have the energy to get into a pissing match.
Of course not.
So he left that to his nephew, Giovanni Aldini.
Okay.
So in 1803, a criminal named George Forster was hanged after being found guilty of drowning his wife and child.
Oh, okay.
Good riddance. We've already talked a little bit on the shady history of medicine in some other episodes, so it should be of no shock to anyone that Forster's body was delivered straight to a scientist to be experimented on.
Exactly, of course. By the way, if anyone's drinking, please drink every time Katie makes an electricity pun.
Yes, that should be 3 now. I had a lot of fun doing this, but it was really hard not to, reuse the same ones. So
yeah, well, there's only so many you can do.
Yeah. So it's actually not only is it not surprising that the dead body went straight to a workshop. It's actually rumored that Aldini had actually moved his workshop or his lab to the Newgate area, specifically to be close to executions.
Nice.
Because only the freshest corpses will do.
Well, yeah, you gotta make sure all that animal electricity hasn't gone out of it yet.
You can't be losing precious animal electrical fluid.
Exactly. Never mind all the other things that have been done to the body, like the spinal cord being broken, severed.
So after a little, song and dance to prove that the body was for real dead, I think he just kind of waved his arm around. I was like, look, it's dead body. He's fully dead.
Is this for himself or for others to prove to everyone else?
He wasn't doing this in front of the general public. There apparently was some reporters there because I'm about to go into a quote by a reporter.
Okay.
But again, I think that's, this is the time when dissections, dissections were held, lectures and whatnot. Right. And this was all for, other scientists and physicians and whatnot to just further learn about the human body.
Gotcha.
So after showing off, hey, look, he's dead.
Right.
Aldini attached electrodes to the ears and then turned up the electricity.
Okay.
Reporter stated, on the first application of the process to the face, the jaws of the deceased criminal began to quiver, and the adjoining muscles were horribly contorted, and one eye was actually opened.
Ooh.
In the subsequent part of the process, the right hand was raised and clenched, and the legs and thighs were set in motion.
Okay, that's actually kind of cool.
You're not the only one that thinks that. We'll get there. Okay. So some people actually thought that Aldini was actually raising him from the dead, which led to government discussions about what to do if he'd been successful. And so hang him a second time, of course. That was the answer.
Well, it's like that question of if you're sentenced to life, to serve a life sentence that's to the end of your natural life. I don't know if they say that anymore. And then you have a heart attack and you're clinically dead and they resuscitate you. Should your sentence be over?
No, it shouldn't.
No, it shouldn't. But, interesting loophole. I'd love to see a show about it.
I mean, it is a great philosophical topic.
Yes.
And
possibly a reason to change the verbiage of sentencing, maybe.
Because, I don't know much about law, but I do know that they love to live in the gray. Lawyers and the legal system exists in the gray, not the black and white.
Lawyers wouldn't have jobs if they didn't.
Aldini's experiments soon became widely talked about and actually gave more credibility to his uncle's claims. And his uncle, I don't think I worked this in, Galvani, is, have you heard of galvanism or things that have been galvanized?
Yes.
So basically, things that have undergone a chemical electrical process.
Okay.
He's the father of galvanism.
Oh, okay. Cool.
So that's what, a lot of his work is whatnot.
Nice.
So Aldini's experiments also attracted the attention of a fellow scientist named Andrew Ure.
Okay.
He was a scriptural geologist. Don't know what that is.
Okay.
But ultimately, he was one of those smart about and interested in everything types. It ultimately, he's fresh out of university, looking for something to study, heard about Aldini's experiments and said, that looks neat. I think I'll give it a go.
Great. People had such interesting careers back then. Like,
Right.
You can do like
You
7
just
different
make a
things.
living out of electrocuting dead
Right.
bodies.
And you could also make a living of like retrieving the dead bodies and delivering them to the scientists.
Quite a decent
I know.
living, too.
Exactly.
So by 1818, he had his own supply of fresh criminal corpses to play with. He was a scientist, sure, but also kind of a showman, because unlike Aldini, he carried out his experiments for the public,
Okay.
and they were more like freak shows because there wasn't really any science to it.
Yeah.
Like, he wasn't really showing, he was just kind of showing off, like, look what we can make this thing
Right.
do.
Yeah.
Because he didn't really seem to be trying to answer any kind of question, just playing with his little criminal puppets.
Yeah. Exactly.
I mean, that's fine, I guess, but it's not really
mean,
science.
It's not ethically fine, but it's okay.
Oh, we'll get to ethics in a little bit.
Oh, no.
So in November of 1818, Andrew had gotten hold of a criminal named Matthew Clydesdale, and together they put on quite a show.
Oh.
Again, Matthew Clydesdale is an executed criminal.
He's a
corpse.
dead person.
So Andrew stimulated different areas to generate different reactions, such as animating the leg to where it like flung out suddenly and nearly took out an assistant.
Oh, nice.
Stimulating the diaphragm to make it appear as if he was breathing.
Okay, creepy.
Or his face, that all at the same time had the expressions of rage, anguish, horror, despair, and ghastly smiles.
Ooh, those are all kind of the same
Yeah.
facial expression if you name them differently. I would, man, I hate to say this, I would have gone to one of these shows.
Oh, for sure.
Like,
100%.
I don't want to be like, I would love to have gone,
Like,
but yeah, I kind of would see that.
yeah, I would definitely see
I mean,
that.
I'm sure if someone ethically donates their body to science and is aware that this is a possibility, let's try it again, maybe.
It's like, my thing is, you know, I definitely want to donate my body to science. Do whatever you want with it, but like, make it useful, you know?
Yeah.
Just kind of putting on a show for people to show what you can do by placing electrodes.
What if we
in
do
certain
that
areas
first and then do something useful with it? Like,
I mean, that's fine, I guess.
do that and then we'll
But
throw
just-
you on the body farm.
Yeah, just don't only use me as a freak show,
Yeah.
like a puppet. Like,
Yeah.
and try and learn something, or answer a question, or just, even if it's some other person who's learning science, some other physician, let them learn. Like, they don't have to discover anything new. Just, like, oh,
I have a
now
question.
I better understand veins. I don't know.
I have a question about Clydesdale. What's his face? How, like, I imagine there's a pretty small window in which you can be using a corpse before it rots.
So that I don't know.
Okay.
So like, I mean, this was November, and I think he said he was Scottish, but I don't know if he was actually in Scotland.
Okay.
Might have been in London too. But you know, November is cold.
Cold. Okay. Yeah.
So
It's just thinking about the, you know, I was thinking about the body farm.
You're thinking logistics, and
and you know, like, we use you
Andrew didn't seem to care.
until you start falling apart, and then we go let people study the falling apart.
Until he's used until all of his animal electric fluid is used up.
That's right. The animal electricity. Forgot. There's a limited supply.
So, like I said, he's doing this as, you know, kind of, basically it's for the public too.
Right.
I mean, sure, yeah, he wanted medical professionals and whatnot there, but anyone could come and watch. And actually, several of the spectators were so horrified by, you know, the face contorting and the movement that they had to leave out of either fear or sickness. And one dude even fainted.
Oh, a dude.
Yeah, was like, hell yeah.
Wow.
Finally, it's not just the women always seem
Although were women allowed to be there?
I don't know. I do not know.
Also, how is this working with rigor mortis? Doesn't that stiffen up the body pretty quick?
Rigor mortis also actually fades, and you can actually work.
Really?
You can work rigor mortis out of the system. So, yeah. So you die, and within hours you do start stiffening. But you can actually, start manipulating joints and actually work out the. What is it? This buildup of lactic acid that causes.
That sounds right.
Oh, anyway.
I don't have my phone on me.
But yeah, it eventually does fade on its own.
Interesting. Learn something new.
Mm-hmm.
And if you didn't know that, listeners, take a drink. If you learn something new, I'm making up my own drinking game as we go.
Well, we did say we need to make up, update the rules and stuff.
Yeah,
so sure.
And puns should be on there.
Yeah, I was literally thinking that as I was writing all of my puns. I was like, take a drink, take a drink. So this experiment with Matthew Clydesdale was actually very interesting to the Royal Humane Society in London.
Okay. The Royal Humane Society.
Yes.
Which I'm assuming is not a dog shelter.
No.
Okay.
It actually was originally founded as the Society for the Recovery of Persons Apparently Drowned.
Apparently
drowned. I
drowned.
think the rebranding was pretty good.
Apparently drowned.
The society regularly published resuscitation techniques, like the one that was used to revive Mary Shelley's mother after she attempted to drown herself in the Thames.
Oh, okay.
Mary's mother was deeply depressed and wrote in a letter that she hoped she would not be snatched from the death.
Oh, no. They did that.
Yeah, it was a reasonable concern, given that physicians were learning that drowning was actually sometimes reversible. This actually happened 2 years before Mary was born.
Really?
So we're very glad that she was snatched from the
Society
death.
Is responsible for
Thank you, Society for the Recovery of Persons Apparently Drowned.
Yes. Also, I don't know if it was the Thames or the... How do you say the French one?
The Seine.
Seine. Okay. But wasn't one of those where they found like an unidentified, like a Jane Doe essentially, whose death mask was the model for the Annie doll, the dummy that you learn CPR on?
Oh no, I've never heard of that.
There's a criminal episode on it, I think, and it's either the
Thames,
Jesus, or the Seine.
Seine,
yeah. I feel like it was the Thames. I feel like there's a lot of dead people in there. Anyways, they pulled out this woman. They never identified her. She was very beautiful. They made a death mask and I think displayed it to see if anyone knew her. And then some guy years later, when he was designing, her name is like Resuscit Annie or something. Like it's a weirdly specific name. But he used her face for the first CPR dolls.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I really want to learn more about that.
Do a little mini episode on it.
All right. Well, after a while of his public puppet shows,
yes,
the coolness factor of look what I can do had kind of died down, and the church was actually all over him and his summoning of devils in his lab. So Andrew decided to give up on reanimation because it was pointless and he knew it. And so he turned his attention to more useful things like developing a working thermostat.
Oh, okay. That's a sharp turn, but glad we did that.
Yeah, but before you start giving this guy too many thumbs ups, he also argued that the Earth was 6,000 years old, and true science always agrees with the Bible. So moving right along.
He's dealing with a lot of mercury, maybe.
Yeah, we'll go with that. So
true science always agrees with the Bible. Sorry.
Yep.
Oh my gosh.
Another scientist agreed with Galvani and Aldini. Johann Ritter, a German physicist who is known for his discovery of the ultraviolet region on the light spectrum.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so
that's real.
Yeah. No, and that's a very useful, like, kind of groundbreaking thing that allowed people to realize there is a whole lot more in our world beyond what the human eye can see.
Yes.
And that's really cool and creepy, but really cool.
Very cool. Very scary.
Well, he eventually also became known for his experiments with electricity. Specifically those he conducted on himself.
Ooh, okay. I'm interested in Johann's.
Uh-huh.
What years are we in?
I don't have a year for him right now, but like we are kind of in I think still around the same time, like the 1820s or so.
Okay. I have a horrible, I need a historical marker for something in the 1820s. I have no idea what's happening then. I'm like, I don't know, in 40 some years the Civil War is going to break out. And that's what I got.
I got nothing. I just got the info.
Yeah. Maybe Bridgerton was happening around now.
Let's go with that.
Okay.
So Johann's interest in electricity ultimately led him to discovering the process of electroplating, which I don't know much about.
Okay.
But I was like, oh, electroplating. I know that word.
Okay.
So sure, yeah.
Sure.
But the journey to discovery was not a painless one.
I believe it.
He used a battery made of saltwater-soaked cloths placed in between metal discs, called a voltaic pile.
Oh, okay.
And touched various parts of his body with electrically charged poles.
Okay.
He would shock his eyes, ears, tongue, nose, hand, etc., to the point that he could no longer endure the pain.
Jeez.
And then would just jot down his notes.
Oh my gosh. I mean, like, kudos to him for not using, I don't know, prisoners or whoever else you would use, orphans. But is he the most reliable?
Well, he's the one with the first-hand experience.
I see what you did there.
That one wasn't even planned. All right.
Okay.
He concluded that galvanism, which are, Galvani's ideas, is a permanent process that all living things are currently undergoing, meaning we've all got electricity running through our veins, basically.
Okay.
We're constantly got that animal electric
I was gonna be like, is that true? But no, okay, never mind.
Adding to the list of our eccentric smart people who are scientifically inclined is Alexander von Humboldt.
Von Humboldt.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Apparently, his ultimate goal was to understand everything about everything.
Okay.
And anyone who's ever seen that one Indiana Jones movie that we don't talk about knows that that's a bad goal. I'm talking about the one with the aliens.
I haven't seen any of them. But
okay, well, it's been out for a long-ass time, so I'm not worried about spoilers.
Okay.
She tells the aliens she wants to know everything, and she learns everything, and it kind of melts her brain.
Oh, okay. All right.
Nevertheless, before his death at age 89, impressive.
Yeah, pretty good.
He had written more than 36 books and 25,000 letters.
25,000 letters? Okay,
More
Alexander
impressive.
Hamilton.
Even more impressive.
Good grief.
A fun fact, he claimed that he only slept 4 hours a night and called coffee concentrated sunbeams.
Concentrated sunbeams? That's adorable.
For an eccentric weirdo, he's like oddly relatable.
I know. I mean, I have been sleeping about 4 hours a night pretty recently, and I also...
Same.
If someone said concentrated sunbeams while I'm drinking that coffee in the morning, I would agree with
You'd
them.
be like, yes.
Yeah, sounds about right.
I do feel the sunshine warming me up.
I am ingesting sunshine. Okay.
He's also the guy who theorized about plate tectonics.
Okay.
He mapped the distribution of plants on 3 different continents.
Wow.
Located the magnetic equator, just to name a few of his
He really was going after everything.
This dude did a lot. I want to learn more about it. I'll probably read a biography on him. He sounds very interesting.
He does.
So he was also yet another fan of galvanism.
Okay.
And to do his part, he created batteries from nothing but animal tissue.
Oh. Okay.
So he used a wide variety of substances to determine how effectively each acted as electrodes.
Okay.
So In conclusion, blood is more conductive than milk, wine, beer, or even just plain water. Also, nerves work or react better when covered in a salt solution or muscle tissue, as opposed to just being exposed to the air.
I believe that.
Yes.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay. Because they are naturally covered in tissue and blood.
Some salt.
Kind of how they're meant to be. That's their natural state.
Yeah.
Okay. So
here's a trigger warning.
Okay.
I wanted to wait and put it in here so that all the listeners could at least get to all the fun stuff, the other fun stuff, before deciding if they want to turn it off.
Hey everyone, it's Hannah. I wanted to quickly ask, if you are enjoying the podcast, please leave us a 5-star review. It goes a long way in getting the show in front of other listeners. If you listen on a platform that doesn't do reviews, please follow us on social media, like the show, or leave a comment. Thank you. We love you guys, and we hope you enjoy the show.
So our next 2 scientists, kind of maybe 3. So our next 2 scientists did use dogs in their experiments. It's not graphic animal torture.
Okay.
But anyone who is sensitive to the use of animals in experiments might not enjoy these guys.
Is one of them the guy that was trying to reattach heads?
Yeah, more or less.
Ugh. Gosh.
All right.
I'm gonna go hug your dog.
So, yeah. Around the 1820s, early Galvanists had kind of gotten all they could from their work and moved on to other things.
Okay.
The Russians, however, weren't quite so ready to let it go.
Oh, dear.
Sergei Brukhanenko.
Good job.
Just going to call him Sergei.
Sergei.
Was a Russian physician who invented the autojector, a heart and lung machine.
Okay.
The design was fundamentally sound. It was just the testing methods were ethically questionable. To test it, Sergei would decapitate a dog and immediately hook the machine to the dog's head, and it would draw the blood from the animal's veins and circulate it through a filter to oxygenate it, working as both a heart and a lung, pumping and moving the blood and adding oxygen to it. The animal's head remained alive and responsive for over an hour and a half before blood clots formed to then kill it. This, of course, isn't reanimation.
No.
Which is kind of what we've been talking about. And the animal lover in me would rather call it prolonged murder.
Yeah. Oh,
gosh. But Sergei's goal was to learn how to revive fallen Soviet soldiers. So, sure, good cause. Could we not find a better way to answer that question?
Good cause, but also maybe get to the root of that problem and find a way to, make war less of a thing.
So despite the distasteful way he went about testing his machine, he allegedly was successful in his goal of reviving someone.
Okay.
A man who had died of suicide hours prior was hooked up to the machine and given, they forced some fun cocktail of chemicals into his bloodstream, and the chest cavity was open, which I'm assuming was part of autopsy, and also probably in order to attach, him to the machine, so that they could see that they had indeed gotten the man's heart to beating again. And in fact, they had just gotten it to a steady rhythm when the corpse started to let out a moan. Like a real Frankenstein's monster.
No.
And that was enough to freak everyone out, and they shut the machine down and letting the man go back to being dead for good.
That reminds me of the Human Z episode where it was they did something, essentially they created either a pregnant ape or a fetus or something, and then they're and then they got too freaked out by it. And
we can't
terminated
let this thing.
They got too far.
They finally stopped and asked if they should be doing it.
Yes, and the answer was no. You should not.
One more dog story. I'm so sorry.
Okay.
I'm so sorry.
It's okay. I have a question, and maybe I don't know if it's an appropriate question. Do we know how that man died?
No, it didn't say.
Okay.
So it was suicide. I'm assuming it wasn't, like a gunshot to the head kind of a thing.
Right.
I'm assuming it was probably hanging
Okay.
or something like that.
Okay.
Because hanging or drowning themselves would be kind of because gunshot, or drugs or something would create too much
Damage.
lasting physical damage to other parts of the body.
Okay.
That I don't think there would really be any chance of.
Right. Okay. That was kind of
reanimation.
what I was getting at. Was did he have a broken neck and we're reviving him, or did he just suffocate to death?
No idea.
Okay.
And again, if they had his chest cavity opened, I don't know what their whole plan was. I don't think they knew, and that's why they were like, "Turn it off, turn it off, turn it off." We didn't mean it. We didn't mean it.
Oh gosh, that is freaky as hell. Okay. Whew.
So, and I mean, again, that's a good machine, and I think that some good research and whatnot actually came of that.
Right. Okay.
And that's the thing to remember with all of these
Right.
scientists. Whether they're just kind of playing around with dead bodies, electrocuting themselves, or worse, all of them learned something from these experiments,
Right.
and we as a society have benefited from some of the results.
Yes, and they don't need to do it again because we already learned the thing.
All right.
Okay.
You ready to power through this one?
Let's power through it.
Yet another Russian doctor was trying to pioneer medical research.
Why do the Russians fucking hate the dogs? Sorry, I'm sorry.
Seriously,
They sent them into
Russians
space.
apparently just have tons of dogs running around, so they just
That means you have a different kind of problem.
they're not there for you to experiment on.
Ugh, gosh. Okay.
Vladimir Dimitrov coined the term transplantology.
Oh no.
And to be fair, he really did probably do a lot for the medical advances in transplants.
Okay.
But again, his experiments were less than savory to any animal lover.
Ugh.
So after many of his early experiments of organ transplants on dogs were super successful, which, cool, he was,
Great.
transplanting some vital organs. And
Right.
yes, that did, like I say, kind of pave the way for a lot more research and advancements in human organ transplants.
Right.
He wanted to step it up a notch. And here is where he goes from well-intentioned doctor to mad scientist. Because Demikov decided to graft the head of one dog onto a second living dog.
Oh no. Make a two-headed dog?
Made a two-headed dog.
Oh gosh.
His first attempt was in 1954. Yes, first. Because one time wasn't enough for him to wake up and realize it was completely unnecessary.
1954?
1954.
70 years ago?
Yeah.
Jeez. When my parents were alive.
So, yeah. My dad was 3.
My dad was 1. Okay. Hate it. That's so not long enough ago.
So, anyway, like I said, one time wasn't enough.
Okay.
And in fact, over the next 5 years, he tried again a whopping 23 times.
No.
It actually made the cover of Life magazine in 1959.
No, it didn't.
It did.
I'm looking through my Life magazine collection.
Yeah. Well,
Oh, gosh.
a small dog named Shafka was grafted onto a German shepherd named Brodjaga. I'm just going to try and
Okay.
get through this. Shafka's body was amputated just below her forelegs and then attached to Brodjaga through an incision in his neck. And their vertebrae and then vascular systems were then linked together. After the only 3.5-hour surgery, that was a fast surgery, both dogs could see, hear, smell, and swallow.
No.
The animals only lived for 4 days.
Oh, God, that's so long.
But one of Demikov's other two-headed dogs lived for 29 days.
No.
All right, so we're done with that.
Okay, I'm sorry. I do not believe in capital punishment, but execute that man. That's the worst thing I've ever heard.
Completely unnecessary.
Golly.
Okay, don't worry.
Okay.
The Russians don't get to have all the fun.
Good. I was worried.
American neurosurgeon Dr. Robert White took Demikov's two-headed dog experiments and upgraded to monkeys with a twist.
Oh, gosh. Okay.
I guess he agreed that two-headed animals were unnatural and uncool.
And unnecessary.
So he decided to put the head of one monkey on the body of another monkey.
Why?
One 18-hour procedure later, the team of 30 doctors, nurses, and technicians all cheered when the monkey woke up and attempted to bite the nearest person. Good for him.
Good for him. I
Good
hope
for
it worked.
him. It did not. The monkey was not able to bite anyone or even move because its spine was severed.
Yeah, that tends to happen when you take the head off.
And then died 9 days later.
9!
The experiment was cited as cruel and unneeded and a grotesque breach of any ethical consideration.
Okay, good.
Agreed. Agreed.
Good.
Despite this criticism, Dr. White was added again, and in 2001,
Stop.
he reported the monkey could see, hear, taste, smell, and move its face.
2001. We were children, Katie.
Yes.
How is that still happening?
There's an Italian surgeon who claims he'll perform the first human head transplant.
No, he will not.
He said he was going to do it in China in 2018, which obviously still hasn't happened. But that kind of begs the question that if he's so confident that he can do this, why not focus his skills on saving or helping people with spinal cord injuries?
There you go. That's a great suggestion,
Somebody
Katie.
doesn't need a new head or a new body. They need you to fix the body they got.
Also, guarantee if you put someone's head on a new quote new body,
Mm-hmm.
they're not going to be able to use it. It's not. Okay. All right. Some people don't deserve medical degrees.
So, unfortunately, the world has seen some real-life Dr. Frankensteins, especially the last couple mentioned, whose experiments were well-intentioned but possibly better left alone.
Yeah.
Bringing back the dead, while noble and an understandable desire, is probably something best left for books and movies.
Agreed.
Mary Shelley's own mother wrote of her resuscitation, "I have only to lament that, when the bitterness of death was past, I was inhumanely brought back to life and misery."
Jeez, that gave me goosebumps. Jeez. Oh my gosh. That was really good. A really good episode.
Thanks. Had fun.
Man. All right, now let's discuss for an hour the ethical.
Well, so Mary Wollstonecraft is Mary Shelley's mother.
Okay.
And so like I said, she attempted suicide, was resuscitated 2 years before Mary was born.
Right.
And then ultimately died of, I think, some like pneumonia type related fever.
Yeah.
I think it was something like fluid lung fever 10 days after Mary was born.
Oh my gosh.
And so,
Poor
you know,
woman.
obviously Mary did have knowledge of, you know,
Right.
like that quote that her mother wrote and other, you know, just letters from her time of depression.
Yeah.
And so, like, basically that quote that I ended on, like, really kind of plays a recurring theme or role or idea throughout the novel of,
Like, I didn't ask for this.
yeah,
Yeah.
like, I didn't want to come back.
Yeah.
Why did you bring me back? Like, just the tragedy of she'd finally escaped from her misery only to be brought back against her will
Yeah.
and forced to suffer longer.
That's so tough because, like, that makes me think of, like, assisted suicide. And,
Yep.
and it's like, you want people to have, obviously, like, autonomy. And I think it's easier to talk about it with people who are, like, physically terminally ill, who are, like, essentially, like, I want to end my life on my terms. But, like, when you talk about people who are suffering from, like, mental illnesses, which we know can be, like, A, physically painful, but B, like just fucking terrible.
Mm-hmm.
It's like
I think because mental illnesses can be, you know, treatable,
Yeah.
or if not treatable, then managed.
mm-hmm.
I don't think that's a appropriate use for,
Yeah.
you know, like the doctor assisted suicide.
Yeah.
I think it is for your people who are, what was it, like ALS or something,
Where it's like you're just
or
going to get worse and worse and worse
Yeah,
until
or
you die.
cancers or any other kind of terminal illness, especially one that makes them physically incapable of doing it themselves. I think the problem there is, you know, like doctors are the ones who can,
Yeah.
you know, administer that help in the most humane and comfortable way, but they're also the ones who took an oath to
Yeah.
do no harm,
Yeah.
and, you know, do everything in their power to save a person's life.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I mean, what happens when there is nothing in your power that can save this person?
Yeah. That's.
I mean, you can save them extra months, years
you
of
can give 'em some
agony,
time.
but
That's rough. And like, poor Mick. What was her name? Mary Shelley's mom. Do we know her
Mary
name?
Wollstonecraft.
Mary. Okay, so another Mary.
Mm-hmm.
But like, obviously back then they don't have Zoloft or Wellbutrin or, you know,
Prozac,
anything, and
the good stuff.
I cannot imagine that she was in therapy or you know, I mean, like, I'm not saying that, you know, I'm not trying to advocate that like suicide because of mental health is accept whatever, but like for her, she probably didn't have
She
a
had
way
no
of
other option, I'm
managing
sure.
or getting better, and that just breaks my heart for her to say like, you just brought me back to like this hell that I was trying to escape. Golly.
I mean, even it's touched on in Buffy. One season, Buffy sacrificed herself to save the world, and her friends brought her back to life. And she was basically in heaven. She was finally unburdened. She was at peace.
Man.
She just, all she felt was, you know, just love and peace, and everything was okay. And she no longer carried the weight of the world.
Ugh.
And then she was ripped out of there and brought back to the literal mouth of hell, because Sunnydale is on the hell mouth. And so yeah, like they spend like a whole season kind of diving into her coming to terms with that.
Yeah.
Of she had given so much of herself for so long.
She just wanted to be,
and she had fought and fought the forces of evil and darkness for years, and, you know, sacrificed just so much of like her normal life, because, you know, she's a teenage girl, and a lot of her datings, you know, in school and whatnot got all jacked up because of vampires and demons. And again, she didn't commit suicide. She sacrificed her. It was like her final act of giving everything that she had. And she was rewarded for a little while.
Yeah.
And then brought right back to it, to just give and give and give more and more and more of herself.
Yeah.
So
it's, and like, man, Mary Shelley was like ahead of her time, because like
she was 18 when she started writing this book too.
But it's like, okay, no one should play God. Like, no one should, like, sorry, you can't. Like,
and I mean,
bad stuff happens when you start.
And on the flip side of this argument, you know, with the playing of God, that's kind of why I have an issue with the death penalty. Like, sure, I agree that there are people who do not deserve to be on this planet. They do not deserve to live. However, I do not believe that is my place or anyone else's place to make that decision.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, because exactly. You said exactly what I was thinking, was like,
you can't play God to take life, and you can't play God to make life or to bring life
to
back.
to reverse that. So, man, that's really good. I was like, man, not what I was expecting from like the little Frankenstein in Walker's book. Sorry, the little Frankenstein's monster.
Well,
in
I mean-
Walker's book.
Obviously, none of this information came from his book. It
What
just,
if it did? There's just like the small print.
it's only written in a a light spectrum that toddlers can read. Even though toddlers can't read.
You're gonna grow up with some dark knowledge.
Well, when I first had the idea, I was super excited because I was like, oh, I bet there's some real, sick people out there who decided to try and do their own Dr. Frankenstein experiments.
Yeah.
So I was like expecting it to just be regular weirdos
Yeah.
trying to do things. I was expecting, there to be some darkness and whatnot to it. But that's not what I found.
You were like,
I mean, I did
people
find
that were-
darkness, but it was like I found actual legitimate scientists who were, again, this is in the early 1800s and like late 1700s was when Galvani started. And so these scientists were doing the best with the knowledge that they had at the time.
Yeah.
And, obviously they didn't hit the mark of what we know now.
Right.
What we know now is in part due to what they were
Yeah.
experimenting with then.
Yeah.
So, and they also brought us a lot of other neat things thanks to their experiments. And again, the other doctors who, the less ethical doctors, again, like, yes, noble, totally understandable reasoning and rationale.
I disagree. What is your rationale behind making a two-headed dog?
Okay, that one I don't understand. You're right.
That guy was just fucking around.
I think it might have been related to, well, no, yeah, because that was the transplant doctor.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
And so I think it was start there, and that might have been like a stepping stone kind of a thing to, like, okay,
Yeah.
if somebody,
I do feel like there could
is a
have...
way of saving, somebody by attaching their head to another host, a willing host,
Yeah, like
so
a
they could
graft.
continue to live
Mhm.
and have like conjoined twins kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Or also by putting two together, you might be able to find different ways to separate conjoined twins.
Okay. All right. I feel like maybe
So-
there were a lot of other
I
ways
think-
he
I
could have
think-
gone, and he just picked like the freakiest one.
I think this was very much the folly of man.
Yeah.
Being
Like-
like, oh, well, I've successfully transplanted organs. What else can I transplant?
Yeah. And it's like maybe a hand.
Yeah, start with that.
Maybe
Try
maybe
a leg.
start with something useful, like if someone loses an arm, or like that thing where they grew a ear on a rat. Like, start with that. You went straight to heads, and that was a big
That was
jump.
too big of a leap.
Too big of a leap. You didn't
So.
nail the landing, so that was rough. Well,
I don't have any pictures
that's okay.
because
We
I didn't want
don't
to
need
Google
them.
and try and find a picture of a two-headed dog.
Nope.
I'm sure it's out there.
I'll find a
Also,
picture.
everyone knows what Frankenstein's monster looks like from any iteration of the films, from the original Frankenstein movies to Young Frankenstein to all of the cameos in Scooby-Doo, other cartoons. Everyone knows.
And if you don't, I'll pick one of those and post that
Do
to
that.
the Instagram. Also, guys, sorry our Instagram has just been like
Lame.
lately. That's on me. I have a good reason. It's because my brain's not working, and we're gonna get caught up. Don't worry. I just need to like set some alarms on my phone or some like reminders or something.
And I'm terrible at the social media, so don't look at me.
Yeah, but
I've got some awesome pictures of Walker at the cabin this weekend, and I have not posted them yet.
well, we'll get to it.
They'll get up there eventually, I'm sure.
That's fine.
Before his third birthday or so, probably.
Speaking of social media, if you would like to see previous pictures of previous episodes, or other fun pictures, you can find us on Facebook and Instagram. We're at the Tales We Tell podcast. If you don't do social media, but you still want to see everything, you can go to our website, thetaleswetellpodcast.com. We've gone over Patreon, but if you want to support us monetarily, financially, whatever, if you want to send us some money,
Yeah, you can do that. I'll give you my Venmo.
we'll give you our personal Venmos. You can just go to patreon.com, search the Tales We Tell podcast. We're on there. I think you can do any amount you want, but I think we have $5 and $10 options, but I think you can also just pick like $1 if you want.
Redbubble
What am I
store.
missing? Redbubble. If you want to get yourself some merch, stickers, shirts, pillows, cups, mugs, all that stuff. We have a bunch of different logos up there. I have a beautiful sweatshirt that has our Bigfoot logo on it. I want to get it in a tank top. I just haven't ordered it yet. You can go to redbubble.com, search the Tales We Tell podcast, find everything on there. If you have sticker suggestions, send them our way. You can message us on Instagram is usually how we get them, but Instagram or Facebook, or you can email us, the Tales We Tell podcast at gmail.com. Did I miss anything?
Another way, super easy, fast, and free way to support us is if you've got a YouTube account.
Yep.
Just go find we're on YouTube. All the audio.
Yep.
It's just another way to listen, and go like and subscribe.
Yep. And tell
Super
your
helpful.
friends. Yeah. And if you're listening on an app that does reviews, you can leave us a nice review. We always love those. And I think that's it. All right. Well, we'll be back next week with some story that I'd have definitely already written. And we will see you guys then.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.